My name is Frank Verdeja. I paint under the name El Perdido, and I'm a Minnesota artist. The name El Perdido literally means lost, or the lost one in Spanish. There's a lot of reasoning for me using that name. About 2.5 years ago, I was traveling with a couple musicians, Drew Danbury and Mike Barnum from Rice Age, and we were on a mini Midwest tour. And the only way that I could earn money on the road was to either be the driver for overnight drives or shoot photos of the musicians, or to sit there and sketch at the merch table and sell my own drawings to kids at the shows. So I started messing around with some materials and did some live painting with some hip-hop bands at some small shows. And from there, I realized that I needed to be behind the work and just make it a visual element to the show in general and not about me in front of it just doing art. I went to a thrift store, dollar store in downtown Fargo, which had just bought out a art supply store and had all of their stuff for like 99 cents, and found rolls of brittle acetate and rolls of thin paper and rice papers and different synthetics, and came across a couple layers of thin plastic and some sandblasted or some dusted mylar. Ended up getting that and giving it a try, and it seemed to work out pretty well at first. Like, it was just a great smooth paper-like surface, and just being behind it, I could see exactly what I was doing on the other side, pretty crisp. And so then I just developed, just integrated some lights into it, and it was just kind of like a illuminated drawing in a light box. The size of the space and the crowd and the time slot for the band determines what type of work I can do on stage. In the studio, I can do whatever I want because I can always take breaks. But for the most part, they're the same types of images. What I do is I start out with a flat farm landscape and try and bring the viewer into this wide open landscape, and then start introducing houses and people and technology and community, and kind of going from there into a city, more of an urban landscape, and then always, retreating back to more of a rustic landscape in the end. Buildings get eaten up by trees. At first it looks like the buildings are burning, and then they look more like they're branching out into larger tree structures, things like that, washing it out so it looks like rain, but it's really deteriorating the artificialness and kind of bringing in just a natural landscape in the end. I try to keep the brush and the brush strokes kind of timed with the drum, or at least the pace of the song that's going on stage. And then usually it flows into the same thing in the studio too, because I'm always listening to music. So at first it's just kind of like bam, 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 like throw out splatters of ink, and then start to quick spray out kind of when there's subtleties in the music. I try to wash out at that point, and then kind of see where I'm going. At the very beginning, just throw a lot on there, mix a lot of ink and water, put it on a straight vertical surface, and see what begins to show up. And then from there, I start to pull out images. It's kind of like staring at the carpet or staring at a piece of wood or wood grain walls. Like, if you stare long enough, you'll start to see more and more images come out of it. And so from there, I play out with, there's my horizon line, because I saw something come down like this and then over. And instead of just saying, I'm always going to go with thirds, like a proper photo, I try to use the same images over and over. I'm quite obsessed with power lines and telephone poles, and I try to work those in because I see them as a symbol of the independent versus the group type of situation. When you're dealing with these wide open flat farm landscapes, you have just this simple flat line, and if you throw up a perpendicular like that, it immediately stands out. Like, it is the individual among like these groups of horizontal lines. It's the unique thing. And then you start to tie it in and reference that it's connected to another post that on another landscape would be that unique individual amidst that group of horizontal lines, and it starts to dilute it out. So it's kind of like this the strength of the individual and the uniqueness gets watered down because it's the same the further you pan out and look at the larger picture. And then at the same time, like, and so it can show a weakness in, or a flaw to that notion of somebody trying to stand alone, is that they're really never alone because they're just standing far enough away from somebody else who's standing alone to be acknowledged in a small image as a unique individual. And then at the same time, you could flip it the other way around and show that there's strength through unity. I think it's one of the only movements that's truly left in visual art, is just focusing on process, showcasing that, to make it more like a performance. Where during the shows that I'm doing and the videos that I'm posting online, like, it's more just about the fact that it moves and that these things happen, and that, you know, I can see it coming. I can trust gravity and how water interacts with ink after doing it so many times, and I can spray here and go and draw here and know that somebody who is looking up in this corner after I sprayed will be, you know, contained for a while, and that they'll be watching that because it's moving still, and it'll be changing the piece while I'm over here working on the details. I look up to people like Pollock a lot. He's just literally letting it drip, letting it land where it's going to land naturally, and then going from there, and through that process he ends up with this beautiful piece. But I like to stop short of that and just focus on the way that things just work. I'd like to get into more and more video where I'm just doing the work, and it is about the process, and the process would just be the video in the end, and that would be the commodity for it. And, you know, I think whether it's sped up to fit into a music video, or done in real time, or even slower than that to draw out the length of a day, they're just great moving pictures, like, literally. I'd like to go bigger, if possible. Sometime I have these sketches in one of my sketchbooks for like a completely circular rig, where it'd just be one piece of mylar that goes around in a circle, and it would have these posts of lights that diffuse all the shadow, and I would have multiple cameras all the way around in a circle, and, you know, just work a whole piece where if I splatter it when I fling backwards with the brush, it also affects the piece over there, and it's all being filmed and synced in real time, and then unwrap that with video so that they're all connected and that they all play at the same time. So sometimes you have nothing going on and just a little bit, or blank white for a long time, and then just a little bit here while this is going on, you know, 4 or 5 TVs down. It's not unique. I think it's just unique in the fact that I show it to people. It's usually all the stuff that nobody wants to show anyone. It's the figuring it out. I'm so focused on what's happening while everything is still wet and moving, and I don't really care about how it ends. Just like you don't care, like, you don't go to a rock concert or anything, you don't go to a movie just to sit there and wait just to see how it ends. If you were just shown the ending of a movie, or just read the last page of a book, or heard the last note of an album, it wouldn't mean anything to you. Like, but you can get so caught up in the whole process of the build up to the end of it, that I think that's what I'm trying to pull out in the work.